This video is for the individual looking to withdraw their TSP, their Thrift Savings Plan, after leaving the federal service. So with the TSP withdrawals, it makes the situation a little bit more unique than most. So when you're working for the federal government, you're offered a Thrift Savings Plan, as opposed to when you're working for a private company, you might be offered something known as a 401k plan. Essentially, how both of these work are you were placing monies aside, you're taking a percentage of your salary every pay period, every month, at the end of the year, and you were taking those dollars and it was essentially going into a bucket. So the way on how this Thrift Savings Plan account grew was by the contributions you were placing into this account, and then the rate of return that came back based upon the investment options that you chose. So if you chose G fund, that was going to be a fixed account. If you chose the S fund, then that was going to be correlated to more small cap. If you chose different allocations, different investment options in there, based upon how well the performance did, that was either going to determine whether you had the positives coming in from the contribution side, which is what you were controlling, and if there was a positive or a negative coming back from the rate of return side, really based upon the investment performance. So now, as it comes time that you sever employment, now whether you're below the age of 59 and a half or above the age of 59 and a half, there are going to be two different factors that could come into play, making sure that you're taking your Thrift Savings Plan correctly. You're taking the withdrawals out correctly, whether that's leaving monies in your Thrift Savings Plan account, you're taking withdrawals directly from there, or being a little bit more savvy with how you're leveraging this Thrift Savings Plan account and this bucket and rolling it over into customized IRAs that are going to accentuate what your goal is or accomplish what your goals are, throughout retirement. So what are the options that someone has when leaving the federal service and they have this Thrift Savings Plan bucket basically sitting there? Well, they could go take the entire Thrift Savings Plan account and take a withdrawal, dump it into their checking account. The reason why someone would not want to do that is the Thrift Savings Plan, and we're just talking about a traditional TSP, a traditional Thrift Savings Plan, is a qualified retirement account, meaning that was pre-tax. So any dollars that you're placing into this plan, any growth within that plan, all those the monies that you're placing in there gave you a tax deduction. The monies that were growing in that account is tax deferred. So when you actually try to remove those monies and actually take a full withdrawal from that, you're going to be fully taxed on the dollars that you pull. So this is why typically a full withdrawal from this account is a big no-no. The reason being is, like, let's say if somebody had $500,000 and they just retire, and let's say they're 65 years old, rather than take the full $500,000, then you just dump it into their checking account, they're going to be taxed on all this $500,000, and then this $500,000 is also going to be added to their adjusted gross income for the end of that year. That could bump them into a higher bracket, which therefore will just tax this number even higher. So this is why just taking a pure full withdrawal is typically not recommended, but there's stages that you could still take withdrawals that are going to be ideal to what you're trying to accomplish, ideal to what your retirement goal is. The other aspect, and this is really where we lean towards, is doing a rollover. So even though it says a TSP withdrawal, a Thrift Savings Plan withdrawal, you could fill out the withdrawal paperwork, but making sure that you're doing it in the form of a rollover so that you're not taxed when you're moving this Thrift Savings Plan dollars. So if we look at the account value formula and how a Thrift Savings Plan account grows, be mindful as you are working, you are making contributions into this plan. The government was giving you some sort of match into this plan, so that was adding positives. And then the rate of return was based upon the performance of the different investment options that you chose. G fund, S fund, target date funds, 20, 30 funds, whichever route that you decided, life cycle funds, so whichever route that you decided to go with. Well, when you stop working, these contributions are going to stop and the match is going to stop. So now you have to rely solely on the rate of return side, which is limited. Essentially, with the Thrift Savings Plan, you're only offered about 10 to 20 different investment options to choose. So this is why, from just a pure rate of return standpoint, somebody, when they're eligible to basically take the Thrift Savings Plan, sometimes it considers like an age-based in-service rollover, as they're still working for the federal government. They could take the TSP monies and roll those monies over into a specifically designed IRA, or when they sever employment, such as in your situation, you're taking the Thrift Savings Plan and you're rolling it over into an IRA. Now, why would somebody do that if you're just looking at purely from a return standpoint? I'm going to keep the same slide up on the screen because it's going to be very relative. let's say if somebody had the $500,000, they severed employment, they stopped working for the federal government, and they decide to do the rollover, the full rollover of $500,000, and they roll it over into an IRA. How does this IRA account value grow? Same formula. Now the contributions they're not going to be contributing to this account any further, just like they wouldn't be doing that to the thrift savings plan, but the rollover, conceptually think of it as a contribution. So it's basically rolled over. It came from a qualified retirement account, such as the traditional thrift savings plan, to a qualified retirement account known as the traditional IRA. So these monies are the first dollars that are going in there, so $500,000 is going into this bucket. Now this rate of return side is still based upon the performance that this person wants to choose. Instead of the 10 to 20 different eggs in your basket, different investments to choose through the thrift savings plan, this person can now customize these options. And now they have over 5,000 different investment choices. They can have low cost, high quality. They can leverage different asset classes in there. Something that they could customize that could give them the correct ratios to get a better rate of return. Something that even if the markets are going down, they're making sure that they're hedging their bet correctly and making sure that they're setting up the proper asset allocation strategy. So just from a pure option standpoint, if you no longer need to keep your money in the thrift savings plan, they're allowing you to remove those monies. Don't just do a full removal into a withdrawal, but you could do a removal into a customized IRA that could give it a better performance based upon what your risk tolerance is and based upon the different funds that are available for you. But it's really just, if you think of it from a simple standpoint, do you want to have 10 to 20 different options or over 5,000 options to choose? Obviously, you want to go with something that gives you more flexibility. So that's just grazing the surface on how to leverage a rollover. But with this three-thing scenario example that I'm going to go over, I'm going to show you actually how you could customize it and take this $500,000 account and you could create separate IRAs from this that are now working in conjunction with one another. So one could be set up for income, one could be set up for emergency, one could be set up for safe accumulation, one could be set up for aggressive accumulation, et cetera, and have a multitude of different accounts working in conjunction with one another as opposed to just staying put in your savings plan. This next portion is partial. So you could have something where you're leveraging partial withdrawals within your thrift savings plan, and you also are rolling over monies from the thrift savings plan to set them up into custom IRA accounts, customized IRA accounts, so that it's molding specific to what your age is and what your retirement goal is. So whenever I say, molding and customization, be mindful that your situation is going to be completely different than the person that sits across from you at the federal government. Each situation is different. Your family is different. Your financial situation is going to be different. The goals that you want to see throughout retirement is going to be different. So that's why there's not just a one-size-fits-all type solution. It's giving you different ideas on, okay, what's the picture? What's the picture that you want to ideally see for retirement? And then how can we make that come into fruition? So those are the different things that obviously every time that you're hearing these words customization and setting it up and making sure that you're leveraging it for your components, be mindful that it's going to be different than how your parents set up retirement, how your cousins, how your family members set up retirement, how your coworkers, all of that, and just making sure that each thing is specific to what you want to see throughout your retirement years. So partial withdrawals come into play when, let's say, if somebody is not 59 and a half yet, but they severed employment from the federal service. And let's say that they're age 56 years old as an example. Well, with an IRA, when somebody takes their money and they roll it over into an IRA, with IRAs, you cannot touch these monies before age 59 and a half. With thrift savings plans, you can touch your monies before age 59 and a half. So this is why, let's say someone's age 56 and they had a $500,000 bucket that's sitting here, and they need to supplement what their income is because when they're retiring from the federal government, maybe they might be able to take a Social Security supplement. They can trigger their pension income, and maybe between the combination of these two, it might equal, let's say, $50,000. But at retirement, their expenses, starting at this age 56 marker, might be, let's say, $60,000. So in this example, this person is not 59 and a half yet. They didn't hit that age 60 marker, and they still have 4 years left to go. And they still have a gap within their income strategy of about $10,000. So what they can do is say, you know what? out of this $10,000 for 4 years, I could take, $40,000, or just to be safe, let me put $50,000 aside, leave that into a G fund, which is just a fixed account, and then start taking distributions from this for $10,000 to suffice this $10,000 gap to get them from their age 56 to age 60. As that was happening, out of the $500,000 total account, $50,000 was left in the thrift savings plan. That was being distributed as partial withdrawals. It sufficed this 59.5 rule because it didn't apply to the thrift savings plan monies, and the other $450,000 was now not handcuffed to just staying into the thrift savings plan account. This was now working into a rollover into customized IRA accounts. So now this could be set up to get triggered further income at age 60, further income at age 65, growth strategies at age 60, growth strategies at age 70 or 72 to suffice required minimum distribution. So there's a whole multitude of different things, but be mindful. Really, a large takeaway that a lot of individuals are not familiarized with is thrift savings plans monies are not subject to the 59.5 rule if they sever employment. If they sever, if they leave the federal government. But an IRA is subject to 59.5 rule. So you don't want to shoot yourself in the foot and do a full rollover if you still need monies from now, if you retired before the age of 59.5, and you need to at least supplement these dollars, beforehand. There's ways on how you could take out partial withdrawals to make sure that you're sufficing what your income need is, what your retirement need is, before that 59.5 bucket will get kicked in. So I hope that this portion makes sense. And after going through the three things scenario, I think it's going to make a little bit more sense on how to customize it specific to your needs. Now, any point in time that you need help with your specific situation, feel free to call our 1-800 number. It's 1-800-566-1002, or visit our website, which is attached in the link below, and set up a calendar appointment with a specialist, and we'll try to help figure out what your situation is and how to calculate everything correctly. With the three things scenario, this is something I talk about on a lot of my videos, and I say that there's three things that every individual needs to figure out before they're retired, or if they're currently retired, how to stay retired forever. So if we have a situation where, let's say, somebody retires from the federal government and they're currently age 65, and we understand that they have pension income, let's say that's coming to them as $30,000. Let's say that they're receiving Social Security income, which will be another $20,000. So we know that this is going to be $50,000 of income, but we calculate that their expenses, after using budgeting analysis, we calculate exactly to the decimal point what their expenses will be throughout retirement. So throughout retirement, maybe this gap, or maybe what their expenses are, is $60,000. So just like the example I showed. So between these two, these are guaranteed cash flows. So these are, cash flows. These are guaranteed income sources that are coming to this person. $30,000 plus $20,000 is $50,000. If their expense need is $60,000, they have a gap now of $10,000 that's sitting there. I'm going to stay with the bucket example. This person has $500,000 in their thrift savings plan bucket. What exactly do we do to help them accomplish their retirement situation? Well, first and foremost, when somebody's no longer working, they're no longer generating income. So rather than just say, okay, let me just take all the dollars and try to just, make withdrawals from this, you can leverage that strategy. But typically, this is set up when somebody's investing their money or placing their money with different investments. That's known as a growth-related strategy. That's not set up as an income-related strategy. So you could leverage different rules of thumb out there. This is like the 4% rule, saying comfortably I should be able to pull out 4% of whatever my account balance is. And as long as the market is good to me and there's no sequence of returns risk, especially in the first 10 years of pulling monies out, I should be able to not outlive these retirement savings. Rather than take a guess and decide, how much withdrawal you should be pulling out, I like to secure what this income strategy is. So create a proper income strategy that will produce lifetime income for either this individual, it's either him or him and his spouse, to receive that $10,000 of income that will get triggered as the pension income is getting triggered, as the Social Security income is getting triggered, so that every year going forward, he's going to have $60,000 of lifetime income, and it's going to suffice the expenses of $60,000 so that will be even going forward. So in this example, maybe out of the $500,000, we take $150,000 of this, and we roll this over into a customized IRA that will produce a lifetime income stream either through an insurance company, through an annuity, create a systematic withdrawal plan to keep investments conservative, and then pull from this account to make sure that it reaches what his longevity is, how long this person, him and her spouse, are going to be living till. So out of this $500,000, we used $150,000 into IRA number 1, and now this leaves over $350,000 to take care of step 2 and step 3. Step 2 is emergency. So if this person has roughly about $60,000 of expenses, rule of thumb is to take 6 to 12 months of what those expenses are and set it aside into some sort of liquid account. And oh my gosh, a rainy day fund. So maybe out of this $500,000 or out of the $350,000 that's remaining, leverage $50,000 and place that with IRA number 2 into a money market account. So something that's not going to be exposed to downward market losses, but something kind of acts like a savings account, but still staying within an IRA chassis so that you're not having to pay taxes on those monies by just withdrawing it and dumping it into your checking account. You could actually decide when you want to pull monies, and then understanding that every time that you're pulling those dollars, it's going to be taxable with those withdrawals. So out of the $500,000, you leverage $150,000 into IRA number 1, $50,000 into IRA number 2, and now we have $300,000 left over for this growth-related strategy. And this growth-related strategy, this is the fun monies. This is where you could customize the heck out of it. So with growth, maybe you want to have safe accumulation growth, leverage different index-related accounts. You could leverage bank-related products, insurance-related products, something that will give you safe accumulation. You can leverage investment-related accounts, set up, a Schwab account, Fidelity account, whatever that is, and leverage, low-cost ETFs or different mutual funds, making sure that you have a proper asset allocation strategy that can be accomplished. You can leverage fixed accounts in this sort of circumstance. So basically, you could take this $300,000 and you could create IRA number 3, IRA number 4, and IRA number 5. That are all working for its own specific purpose. IRA number 3, 4, and 5 are all set up for growth-related strategies, monies that you don't have to necessarily touch, but you just want to have it with, okay, great, I had a really good growth this year. Perfect, I'm going to take the interest of what I grew, and I'm going to take an extra trip, take an extra vacation, visit my grandkids, whatever that case might be. But what's not happening is you're not leveraging this growth-related strategy. It's not coming into conflict with your emergency need and your income-related need. So the trick is to use the smallest amount of dollars, only as much as necessary, the $500,000, and separate that into specific strategies, specific buckets, so that it could be accomplished, it could be maximized towards that specific goal, but look at it from a 30,000-foot view as an overall puzzle piece. Sorry to get a little sloppy on the screen over there, but I hope that all this makes sense, and understand that the 3-thing scenario, that's just one example. If, let's say, someone's in their 50s and they're looking to retire, well, then that might mean that the 3-thing scenario, figure out what the income strategy is, before age 59 and a half, so that you're not leveraging all the monies into an IRA. You're just leveraging portions in the IRA, leaving other portions in the Thrift Savings Plan, and taking withdrawals from that, to accomplish the income, emergency, and growth-related need. And this is ultimately what we do behind the scenes. So this is known as our Retire Sharp Planning System, our RPS plan, and we leverage customization. So based upon what your situation is, I recommend calling into the agency 1-800-566-1002 and reference this video and basically say, hey, you're going to be retiring soon, or you've already retired from the federal service, and you need some help on figuring out what your options are and seeing what the best possible strategies are to help you accomplish your retirement needs. But at the end of the day, it's just math. And with retirement planning, it's something that you don't want to get wrong, because if you get it wrong, that's going to be the difference between having a confident retirement or having to go back to work when you're in your 70s and your 80s and burning through your assets and saying, oh shit, I really wish I would have done this correct the first time. So I hope that all that makes sense. I hope you found value in this video. Feel free to go on our website, retiresharp.com or fosseyfinancial.com, and where you're going to see this little schedule an appointment ticker that's going to pop up. So you could schedule an appointment directly if you have a time that works best with your schedule, or you could call our 1-800 number. You could navigate through the website, download some free reports that we have available for you guys to try to help out your situation the best way possible. Once again, this is Derek Fossey. I hope that you enjoyed this video. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Retire Sharp, so you could have access to the most updated videos. Thanks so much, guys.